Coming to get you, Bobber.
Yummy is a 2019 horror movie directed by Lars Damazo, and it stars Micah Novell, Bart Hollanders and Benjamin Ramon. Before we begin, guys, there's going to be minor spoilers in this review. It's not going to be major spoilers where you're not going to enjoy the movie and be surprised, but there might be some minor spoilers. An orgy of blood, violence and fun in which a young couple travel to a shabby Eastern European hospital for plastic surgery. Once there, things unravel. Surprisingly, there's no trivia to say this, but I read up on a movie or a short film called Patient Zero. It came out in 2016. It was a 3-minute short and it's got the exact same storyline as this movie, Yummy, and it was directed by the same guy, so I'm assuming that he directed a little short called Patient Zero. A couple of the stars were in it from this movie as well, and he's decided to make a feature-length movie called Yummy. I love the contrast in characters in this one, and what I mean by that is we've got the main character. She is going in for a breast reduction, whereas a lot of the other girls or anybody else in there are going for something to enlarge themselves, and I got that vibe from her at the start because she looks like she's got low self-esteem and she's a quiet person, whereas everybody else is going there to get everything done and they're all loud characters. So the contrast in the main characters compared to the secondary characters is quite big, and I like that about the characters of this movie. The movie's set almost entirely in a hospital, so they have to get the hospital right, the look and the feel of the hospital, and I feel like they did that. Now the hospital is very bland, very basic. It looks like it was used in a place where you're not supposed to do that type of work. It was all plain, but when the night shots come in to effect, we've got these kind of like pink and blue and purpley lights all over the place, kind of like a neon glow. Obviously it's not natural lighting, it's lighting that they artificially put into the movie, but I think it worked wonderfully. This is a Belgian movie, but English is spoken in the film, but another language is used as well called Balkanese, the Balkanese language. It's a fictional language that the director's wife created, so I think that was pretty creative. Sometimes watching a horror movie in another language does put me off, not because I don't like the movie, but sometimes I'm trying to look at the screen and the subtitles at the same time. But for some reason this one, it blended pretty well for me. I read the subtitles, I watched the movie, and I felt like I wasn't being put off at all. Maybe it's because there is English spoken in the film, so it's not all in a different language, but I felt like we had that happy medium. We had some English, we had some subtitles as well, and none of it put me off. Now we look at the practical and the CGI effects in this film. The movie had a budget of around 600,000 euros. For you guys in the US, that's about $700,000. Now it's under $1 million, so they didn't have much to work with. I think most of the money they spent was on practical effects, which was great because there was a lot of great practical effects. There were some CGI moments as well. They put me off because the CGI moments were terrible. I think they tried to darken the scene to hide some of the CGI, so I think that the makers of the movie knew that the CGI wasn't great, but luckily that bad CGI was overshadowed by really, really good practical effects. When the practical effects were used, some of the scenes were very gruesome. Some were quite heart-wrenching as well because some people had to kill certain people, which is quite sad, but the practical effects that they used in those particular scenes were great. Moving on to the acting, I think the acting was good, especially from the main cast. Now there were some dodgy characters in the film. I don't know if that was because of the way the film was wrote or if that was just the way the actors were. Now there was a lot of European actors in the film and they did feel very European, and what I mean by that is when you see movies like Hostel, for example, that's set in Eastern Europe, the way the characters are developed in those type of movies is similar to what we see in this film. It's not a bad thing because I think what they're trying to do is portray the European actors or the European characters the way that they're normally portrayed, so I think that they've done that pretty well. I had a few issues with the film. I think that it felt like the story wasn't going anywhere. At the first 5-10 minutes it felt like the story was going somewhere. It had a slow pace at the beginning, but after 10-15 minutes or so, when we find out that there's this girl in there that looks like a zombie, we can assume, after she starts biting people, the hospital gets overrun within 2-3 minutes, and then after that all hell breaks loose, which is great because it's all action, all horror. But after that, it felt like it was going nowhere because they had nowhere to go, nowhere to hide, and nothing that they could do. So I thought we were going to get a slower build-up than that. Sometimes slow build-ups are okay, sometimes slow build-ups are not a good thing, but I think this movie would have benefited more with a slower build-up than what we actually got. There was also this little monster thing that put me off as well. It was this little dead thing in a jar, and one of the zombies' blood dripped onto this jar, and the little thing came to life and became this little monster that was going about the hospital as well. I think we could have done without that, although they were just trying to explain that the blood is what's infecting things and bringing it to life, but I think we could have done without that. Finally, the finale was very predictable in my opinion. I could see it coming a mile away. They did leave a lot of subtle nods throughout near the end of the movie. I won't give anything away, this isn't a major spoiler. They did leave a few nods to what could potentially happen at the end of the movie, and because of that it planted the seed in my brain, and I thought that's going to happen, and this is how it's going to end, and lo and behold, that's how it ended. So if you're not clued up on the little subtle nods, then you might get a surprise ending, but if you see the nods from a mile away like I did, then you'll think, why have you done that? They've just given it away, and that's actually what happened as well. So the finale, although it was a good finale, I did like the finale, it was just very predictable. Overall guys, I was surprised by this movie. I wasn't expecting much. I wasn't expecting anything, to be honest, because it was a foreign movie and I'm not that massive a fan of foreign movies, but I was massively surprised. Not what I expected to see, but I was massively surprised. So if you haven't seen this movie, I highly recommend it. For those of you who've seen it though guys, leave a comments down below. Let me know what you thought of this movie. Also, for anyone who's watching, let me know what you think of foreign movies. I don't mean movies from the UK or movies outside of America. I mean foreign movies that you have to read subtitles for. So let me know down below if that sort of thing puts you off horror movies. It did before for me, but now I don't think it does. Anyway guys, thanks a lot for watching again. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.